Have you ever reached a point where life feels like a heavy fog, where no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to find your way out? That was Sophia. All she wanted was peace, not riches or fame, just a life that made sense. But life, it seemed, had other plans. The months dragged on. Sophia's savings vanished as quickly as she earned them. Rent went up. The cost of food doubled. Some nights she went to bed with only water for dinner and told herself it was fine. She smiled for customers, stitched perfect seams, and carried her invisible pain like part of her uniform. Friends from school posted photos online: weddings, new cars, vacations. Sophia scrolled through them in silence, her chest tight with a feeling she couldn't describe. "When will it be my turn?" she whispered one night, staring at the cracked ceiling of her tiny room. It wasn't jealousy, it was exhaustion. The kind that makes you wonder if the world even sees you anymore. Then one Friday evening, the sky opened up. Rain poured so hard that streets flooded, buses stopped running, and Sophia walked home through the storm. By the time she arrived, soaked and shivering, her small bag of groceries was ruined. The lights were out. Her room was silent except for the sound of raindrops tapping on her roof. She sat on her bed, dripping wet, staring into the darkness. And for the first time in years, she broke. Tears came softly, then harder, until she was sobbing into her hands. For the first time, Sophia whispered the words she'd been too proud to admit. "I can't do this anymore." The next morning, her eyes were swollen, her heart felt heavy. But as the sun slipped through the cracks in her window, something shifted. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was God's quiet voice. Sophia picked up her old, dusty Bible, a book she hadn't opened in months. Her eyes fell on a verse she'd read years ago: "Faith is the substance of things hoped for." She closed her eyes and sighed deeply. It didn't fix her problems, but it gave her something to hold onto, a spark. That day, she made a promise. If no one would open doors for her, she'd start building her own. Sophia began saving tiny amounts from her pay. She stayed after hours to teach herself new designs. On weekends, she made dresses from leftover fabric scraps others threw away. Her fingers ached, her eyes stung from late nights, but she didn't stop. Still, nothing came easy. Some clients cancelled orders. Some refused to pay. There were nights she wanted to give up all over again. But her prayers became stronger than her fear. Each failure whispered, "You'll never make it." Each prayer answered back, "Keep going." Months later, when she least expected it, something happened. A woman walked into the shop. Her daughter's engagement was in 2 days, and she needed a dress urgently. The head tailor wasn't around. Sophia, nervous but willing, stepped forward and said softly, "I can try." The woman hesitated. Sophia looked young, unsure, but desperation made her nod. That night, Sophia stayed alone in the shop. The only sounds were rain on the windows and the hum of her sewing machine. She stitched through exhaustion, through doubt, through fear. When she finished, the dress shimmered softly under the lamp's light. The woman returned the next morning and gasped. "You did this?" she asked, eyes wide. Sophia nodded quietly. A week later, the woman came back with 3 friends. They each wanted dresses. Then another client came. And another. Word began to spread: "There's a girl who sews with heart." Sophia still struggled. There were late nights, unpaid bills, and moments of self-doubt. But for the first time in years, she felt alive. Every dress was a prayer, every stitch a declaration: "I'm not done yet." Then one afternoon, her phone rang. A local fashion show had seen her work online and wanted her to showcase her designs. Sophia froze. Her hands trembled. "Me?" she thought. "They must have the wrong person." But deep inside, a small voice whispered again. "This is what you've been preparing for." The moment of truth. The night of the show, Sophia stood backstage, her heart pounding like a drum. The room buzzed with bright lights, laughter, and elegance. She felt small, like that girl who once cried in the dark. But when she looked at her reflection in a mirror, she didn't see failure anymore. She saw strength. Growth. Survival. Her designs, simple yet full of soul, walked down the runway under the lights. And when the crowd clapped, Sophia's chest filled with something she hadn't felt in years: peace. She didn't win first place that night. But she didn't need to. She had found something far more important: herself. Weeks later, Sophia opened her own tiny studio. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers. She decorated it with soft lights, warm fabrics, and the same sewing machine that carried her through the hardest nights. Sometimes, she'd pause while working, close her eyes, and smile. She'd remember the rain, the silence, the tears, and realize that each of those moments built the woman she had become. Because finding herself was never about fame or fortune. It was about rediscovering the strength she already carried inside her.